Welcome to another episode of Mundelein Minute. It's episode number, I forget. It's up there because I'll put it
I
up
think
there.
this should be special episode 1.
Oh, we did other episodes at the beginning that weren't about board meetings.
Did we?
And yeah,
Oh, about what?
stuff. Anyways, my name's Eric Schwenk. I'm a trustee in the Village of Mundelein.
Sorry.
And Kara is also a trustee and she's shopping on Amazon.
No, I was making sure that I just ordered Theo some fancy gummies that were like zinc.
You should move your microphone close.
I'm afraid to touch it. It's going to break.
It might break the table. So anyways, this is Kara Lambert. She's a trustee in the Village of Mundelein.
Good thing Eric's here to introduce me.
Yes. We kind of moved our set around a little bit because of a cat thing. Watch the last episode and you'll find out more.
It's my spot.
And the microphones are
very fragile, so I'm just going to sit here still and not move. Okay? I'm just
on
like
this
a talking
table.
head.
It's kind of
Set up funny.
rickety. That's a good word for it.
Rickety.
Rickety is a good word.
Like my bones.
So this episode, we're going to talk about our budget meeting last night.
Whew.
And we could pretty much just sum it up with a high five and close the episode.
Popping bottles.
Yeah. If I edited the episode, I would totally put in like streamers and poppers and balloons and things. But as we know,
You don't episode.
I don't edit. Nope.
All right.
Trim the beginning and the end and throw a
she
logo
wrote.
on it and publish it. So the
Eric's
budget.
got the presentation on his iPad. That's why I'm like kind of like looking down.
So I have the entire budget presentation. It was
which is also online, I believe.
yeah, it's on the agenda and minutes
Yep.
page.
Yep.
It is a ginormous PDF that goes through everything we went through last night, every aspect of the budget. So
We redid the budget presentations last year when
new
Village
village,
Manager
yeah.
took over, and they are better, I feel like.
much better, and they're about to change again.
Oh, with the addition of
The ERP.
ooh, fancy
Yep,
pants.
our new software that is taking quite a long time to implement, but there's a lot of moving
Benefits.
pieces to it
Benefits
and
too.
benefits. Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. Let's just go for the overall big number.
So yeah, I moved pages here to look and see how many there were, how many pages, but there's too many.
So really quick,
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to know that we always operate within a balanced budget.
We operate within a balanced budget, and I think it's also
There you go.
important to note, we talked about this in last year's budget episode, is the number of funds that we have.
Oh yeah, you can't steal funds from one place to put them towards another. Like everything
Right.
has a place, and certain things fund certain funds. That sounds ridiculous.
Certain funds to fund certain projects, and
Yeah, there we go.
So a great example is the water and sewer fund. So the water and sewer fund is money that comes in from water usage and sewer usage
Yeah.
and those bills, and that money goes to pay for water and sewer. So anything that gets done to those that infrastructure can come out of that water and sewer fund, or the payment that we pay to Jawa
Yeah.
every month or every quarter, however,
Right.
I think it's every month, that that comes out of that fund. So
We can't use funds from, like, say, motor fuel taxes to fund the police department. Like,
Right.
that doesn't work like that. So
right.
things like that.
So we do have a general corporate fund that does fund the majority of staff in our big three departments.
Right. Police, fire, public works.
Right. But then the rest kind of comes out of those smaller funds. So last year, our balanced budget was $57.5 million, and that included $1 million going to reserves.
Yes.
This year, our balanced budget is $61.6 million. We have some additional monies coming
That's
in.
so much bigger than last year's.
We do
Stay
have
tuned.
money, yes. But that also includes an additional $1 million going to our reserves. So it has been our strategic plan to sell some property.
Eric and I's my personal goal was to not get us involved in lawsuits, and then Eric's personal goal was to ditch excess property.
Ditch excess property and build infrastructure.
Yeah. So.
Yep. And
Oh, you didn't do your
I didn't
preface.
do
None of
my-
this is paid for by taxpayers. This is Eric's house.
that's right. My cameras, my microphones, and there's people in this house besides us right now.
Yeah.
And cats.
Yeah, I'm waiting for
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, keep
they,
going.
They haven't interrupted in a while.
Oh God, this is a terrible episode.
So now that we're completely off track, getting back into this, the budget this year is $61.6 million. That's putting $1 million into our reserve. It's $30.6 million for the general corporate fund, $11 million for water and sewer, and we're increasing our streets. That's the big one here. Is we're
One more
increasing
time?
our streets. Increasing streets.
Okay.
from 3.5 to 5.6 million.
And I just want to interrupt you really quick. A couple months ago, we had, or maybe it was last year, we talked about what a streets budget would look like if it was fully funded. If we could do every project we needed to do yearly, keep up with maintenance, it would be funded to the tune of almost probably 6.5 million, which is probably now 7 million.
Well, and it was a little over 5 million when we joined the board, and that just shows
Yeah.
that not keeping up with it quickly
Yeah.
increases the costs going forward. So we have increased that cost.
So we're almost, so we increased the cost substantially. However,
Yep.
we're still not quite to that fully funded level.
Not quite. Not quite.
But better. Improvement.
Yep, absolutely. So some major highlights. Let's see, where's the budget slide here? Some major highlights and some changes. We are now funding our legal line item. This is
Yeah.
one that I pushed for the last couple of years.
So
And said, hey, we always budget 4.25, 400,000 for legal expenses, yet we always spend 700,000. So why don't we actually budget for
correctly,
700,000? This year we are, and that is kudos to our village administrator for finally recognizing that that's an ongoing expense, and we're noticing that we have these legal expenses with all these developments and
negotiating with police and fire, collective bargaining.
Yep.
There's all sorts of things that you don't realize that legal feeds into.
Correct. We did increase the budget for public works this year. They have some, they're pretty much the major department that buys outside goods.
But in their defense, public works funds cars for both for police and fire.
For everybody.
They fund a lot of the large infrastructure projects, most of them.
Well, and anything like salt, anytime they have to buy products at Ace or Home Depot or whatnot to fix village facilities, those are all costs that, obviously the village pays. And inflation this year has been much higher. And
as everyone feels.
Right, as everybody is feeling. And of course, the village feels that too. So that was taken into consideration when looking over this budget.
Yeah.
So that was increased for them. Let's see, some of the other increases, what was legal, public works, the fire department. So one of the main reasons for our growth in our budget and our revenues coming in this year was some changes to the billing in the fire department. So we're estimating an extra $1 million a year, just under, to be forecasted this year for the fire department, for billing for ambulance services and fire services. And because of some contract changes with our contract firefighters, not the full-time labor ones, but the part-time, we actually find that's going to be better to hire out 2 new people to be full-time village employees than it is to continue on with some of these contracts, because filling of overtime spots.
I mean, let's be honest, labor shortage is hitting them too.
It is.
Right? Like
it is.
They're unable to fulfill some contractual obligations, and when they renegotiated their contract, they just couldn't pay for it anymore. So we think it's more advantageous for us to hire full-time firefighters at this point. So 2 new full-time firefighters.
Yep.
There's also some projects going on at the fire department. They're getting a new roof. What are they getting?
Station 2 is getting a new roof.
So there's some infrastructure projects that have been, when actually this was something that was talked about when we sat down with them when we were elected, that needed to be done then. And now here we are 3 years later, finally getting to it. So, they have pinched pennies to be able to pay for some of their things, and now they're being able to get these things done. So,
right.
Are you going into street resurfacing?
Well, I was just going to highlight on some of the major upcoming projects that we're going to work on. Okay, go. So street resurfacing, or reconstruction. So every year there's a number of streets that get chosen. It's actually, as it was explained to us last night, is a living document that's constantly being updated based on the conditions of the streets. And it's obviously something we hear about quite often.
Yeah, of course.
And the street program this year being expanded. So we're actually doing, they don't have a number on here for reconstruction.
Wait, go back or go forward. Right there. It just gives specific roads.
It gives specific roads.
Miles.
I'll put the slide up so you guys can see the image. And it shows that there's an additional 4 streets that are being included because we've increased that amount of money this year, where it would only have been 3 streets this year, that we're adding 4 more to a total of 7. And we're also increasing the resurfacing.
So resurfacing versus reconstruction. Resurfacing is where you put a new layer of asphalt. You make it look pretty.
Yeah, you grind it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Pour some more on, flatten it out.
Right. Reconstruction, you're literally bringing it down to the dirt, rebuilding it, basically.
Correct.
So
yep.
Obviously it's more costly to reconstruct than it is to resurface. So that's why this is broken down into different categories.
And each road is different. Some don't need to be reconstructed. And
I mean, there's roads in the village that don't have curbs still. So
right.
That's a big project to add curbs and gutters to streets. So anyways,
very true.
Digress.
Very true. So it looks like
this
we're
is
doing
a good slide too, showing this just shows the trend of how our streets and roads funding has increased dramatically over the last, I would say, 3 years probably.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Absolutely. And then I'm going to go towards the end. I'm not going to go through. We have 20 different funds, like we were talking about at the beginning. Yeah. There's 20 different funds, and I'm not going to go through each one because
no one would watch.
Nobody would be here
zoned
listening.
Out by then.
So some major items that we've had planned, we being the board and the board prior to us have had planned.
Maybe even the board prior to.
Oh my gosh, it's been a long time for some of these items that have been capital improvements, and we have received some grants from the federal government for ARPA, the ARPA funds.
Yep.
2.1 million last year and 2.1 million this year. And we're trying to find ways to utilize those within the constraints provided under the ARPA funds.
Right.
And do some of these capital improvements. So we've allocated, what was this? We've allocated 1.7.
Yeah.
So we still have 350,000 left out of the first 2.1. And then out of the next amount of money, staff gave us some ideas on how to utilize those funds to, kind of cross off some items that have been on our to-do list. Do you want to jump into any of that?
I mean, well, the big ones are like going back to where the first ones that were used that are funded already. Mm-hmm. Park Street Alley, which you've seen work done already. Lakefront Park. So somebody asked me again, like when Lakefront Park is starting. That's the piece of land that was bought on Diamond Lake. Shoreline restoration and stabilization of that. That should be happening soon if the weather would ever get nice. Viaduct beautification. So the South Viaduct we did already, and then the North Viaduct needs to be done. The Midlothian Bike Path, we gave some money to the Fremont and the Fremont Library and Park District because they did not receive ARPA funds. And then the options they gave us for next year where we wanted to see this were, we obviously thought that it was advantageous for us to put some of that money into reserve. So that was $1 million there, which just left us with another about $1 million.
Yeah.
Roughly. We were able to some big projects, expand the Midlothian Bike Path lighting project. So there's some solar lights that are on Midlothian Bike Path, and we're going to expand those north. It's kind of needed. I mean,
it's a very dark area.
It's super dark, and like, I don't know, kids walking home from the high school, things like that, or even like, just general people walking their dogs or whatever. It's super dark. This really excited me was the STAR program.
Yeah. Because
when I was elected, I had pitched this business incubator idea where I wanted something to, like where we could cultivate businesses and kind of like grow them. And EDC said that's not viable. But this sort of sounds like it's getting to there.
It sounds like the EDC looked into what we suggested and said, well, we can't do that, but how about this?
So I'm excited to see that presentation on that. So we're funding that. We are giving money to Fremont Township to put in some accessibility ramps there.
And Fremont Township is another one that
did not get ARPA funds.
That didn't get ARPA funds.
And then some other things they gave us other ideas. So expand our LED streetlight program. What else was it?
The police department parking lot.
The police department parking lot. So the police, those of you that, park at the police department ever, in fact, I noticed it today because I was just there. The parking lot gets full rapidly, and there wasn't even anything going on there today.
Right.
And it was pretty full. So expanding that to the grassy area to the, what is that, north of it?
To the north. Look at you knowing a direction.
Yeah. And then some other like smaller project, but really it's that LED streetlight program, which Trustee Ross pointed out last night, that will in turn save us money in the long run. The more streetlights we can get to LED, the better we are. So
right. It saves us energy cost.
Yeah. Yep. So, and the police department, you can't really I would prefer not to mess around with the police department. Like they've been asking for this for
and I jokingly said last night that that I didn't want to fund it because it's been the ongoing joke in every budget meeting that I've ever sat in is, how about that police department parking lot? And I'm like, well, can't do it this year.
But I
Maybe
think
next year.
this
Wink,
will be the
wink.
year we do it.
Yeah.
So.
So it's actually going to get done this year. And Adam, our public works director, brought up a good point that
It's not going to get cheaper.
It's not getting any cheaper, and that the $375,000 that we budgeted for it this year is going to be pushing it.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tight budget for that.
So this, I mean, I guess like the takeaway here is there's two things that I'm going to take away is that the ARPA funds helped us tackle some large capital projects that need to be done.
Absolutely.
You know, they're serving their purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Revitalizing towns, and we took advantage of it. And there was a set, and we talked about this on another podcast, like a set defined scope of what they could be used for, and we're really using them to the potential.
Right.
So we're playing catch up with some big projects.
But the to-do list will never be done.
Never.
Just like
your house.
Just like anything. Yeah. Just like any house or anything that you have.
Yeah.
The to-do list is ongoing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So
are we going to go into like sources of revenue? We didn't talk about that. We should probably talk about that.
Oh yeah. There's some good news up there.
There's some really big news that we should have probably just like led the podcast off with when we were popping bottles.
Wait, do we want to cut and go back to that?
You don't edit.
Oh, that's right. I don't edit. Never mind.
I'm popping bottles. This is huge. So the sources of revenue for the village are the big two, I guess. Well, the big three, right? Are property tax, sales tax, and then other, which is like fees, permits, licenses, telecommunication tax, use tax, hotel tax, video gaming tax. Like all of these miscellaneous taxes add up to the other.
And then there's the income tax.
And then income tax.
And it's really the small one at the end. It's 13% of our budget.
But I think we should highlight on it.
Yeah, and the only reason I wanted to bring it up is because it went up by $1 million in this next budget year, and that's totally because of the census.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about the census in prior episodes, we kept hitting on make sure you get counted because it means money to the village.
Yep.
And whether it's road funds, whether it's sales tax numbers, this is all money that's coming to because of the census numbers.
Yeah. So our census grew, so we're going to get more income tax share.
Right.
Ooh, and the economy rebounded a little bit faster than we anticipated.
Which is more sales tax, right?
Yeah. But the big two that we wanted to talk about was property tax and sales tax. And for the first time in village history, like I feel like we need.
If I edited, there would be a drum roll.
Sales tax was larger than property tax. Our revenue from sales tax was larger than our revenue from property tax, which means we collected more money from business from sales tax than we did from property tax.
Correct.
So pretty big.
Our businesses are doing well and generating more sales tax than they've ever generated in the past.
Yeah.
Which is great news.
It's good news. So
yeah,
that's kind of it. I don't know. What else do you want to talk about? Oh, there you go.
There's the road. Yeah, so this is this year's numbers.
Tim Wilson asked us how much time we took to prepare for these. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like this episode exemplifies that.
Shout out to Tim for listening. We attend the board meetings. That's our preparation for these podcasts. No, there's really
attend the board meetings.
There's really no preparation included.
But when you read the packet, then you like can sort of prepare. But to our defense, you have no excuse because you like were involved in this. But me, this is a massive presentation.
This is a massive presentation, and the second time that I sat through it. So yeah, I have a pretty good grasp on how this budget works.
But I feel like, this is a good year. Last year was a tough year because we were coming out of the pandemic.
Yep.
We were still in the midst of the pandemic. I don't know where we were.
I don't know. It's been ongoing for so long.
Started to see vaccinations and just started to see a light at the end of the tunnel. And it was kind of still scary. So This is definitely a good year. And being able to like get stuff done is super awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, especially like projects that you and I have like talked about for 3 years, like finally like getting shovels in the ground to do is huge. So mine, Lakefront Park, and and like the beautification committee, and then yours, everything, all the infrastructure
projects,
water lines, sewer lines,
yes,
the Western Slope drainage project, things like that. So.
Right. We're in a good place, and money in the reserves. It's
I feel like we should have talked about that slide too. Is like our reserves in 2019 were like 36%, 35% maybe, and now we're at 42% funded. So getting
Right.
that reserve number back up is huge for all of us. And I guess this is another good thing is that over the last year we've sold $1 million in surplus property.
Yeah, in 2020 we were down to 35% of our operating budget was in reserves, and our goal is to have 33 to 50%.
I mean, obviously we'd like to see that.
I would like to see 50%.
Yeah, exactly.
So this year, by the end of the fiscal year, we're looking at 46%.
And
so
no
we're
one's
going to be
saying
in a
it's
better,
perfect,
better
but
spot.
It's a better spot. And again, selling surplus land. Both of us have talked about that. So
Right. It's all added up. It's
all right.
adding up.
Have we bored you enough?
Well, I hope you enjoy budget presentations as much as I do.
This is all online too, and like seriously, if there's questions about it, like go look at it. It's a great presentation.
I'll put a
It's
link
easy
below.
to follow. It's
about the only editing I do. I'll put a link to the presentation below.
God knows you don't edit me. You just pick the most flattering angles ever.
I don't even do that. That's the YouTube algorithm.
Thanks, YouTube.
Yep. Yeah.
Perfect.
Well,
All
thanks for attending and listening to this special edition of
We'll see you next
Mundelein
week
Minute.
again.
Back again for
Oh my
another
God,
episode.
3 in a row.
3 weeks in a row. Oh my goodness. All right. Have a good day. Bye.